I've been painting since I was in the 5th grade, but I've just never done it outside of my home or in a studio. Art has always been important to me, and I think the first time my art teacher hung one of my paintings, watercolor at that time, was in the 5th grade. And it was supposed to resemble or refer to a book that someone had read to us. And so I was very proud to have it hanging on the wall. And it was, of course, it was blue and green. It was an outrigger canoe with a lot of water and movement. And so that was, I think, the beginning of my interest, my sincere interest in art and wanting to be an artist. It was a very interesting route that took me here, quite frankly. I'm a self-taught painter. I am trained as a landscape designer. I graduated from the Radcliffe Graduate Seminars program in landscape design, and I worked in the field for probably 6 years. I had a business. We did a lot of wonderful work, but found that the contractors were making so much more money than we were. And so it would take us a tremendous amount of time to do a complete landscape plan or a pool plan or whatever it might be. And so we both opted to go in other directions. I had done over a house in Cape Cod. I rehabbed it. It was an older house. And an editor, a freelance editor from Boston, whose name was Estelle von Gorelnik, heard of it, and so she came and looked at it and photographed it. And she would walk around my house saying, "You should be painting, you should be painting," seeing the things that I had done in my house. And so I think that that was really the boost that I needed to look around for a studio, a private studio. Those influences are always referenced in my painting. The water, the landscape, shadows, trees, things like that. So I take all of my experiences and incorporate them into my work. I never have a plan. Until I reach the studio, I know that I'm going to paint. And so it's usually a color, it's a tune that I might be listening to, and it just takes off from there. You know, I put down one dab of color, and then that just takes me someplace that I have no plan to go originally. Yes, it all happens on the canvas. I just start mixing up my paints. I paint with a glaze in my oil colors, and so my canvases are a bit, they're gorgeous color and a contrast between rough and smooth. I sand some of my work, or some of the paintings, not all of them, but a portion of them, to show what's underneath, because it all goes back to my rehab experience in tearing down buildings and walls within and finding what remains on the walls sometimes in the old plaster. I plan to be working in larger formats now, even though the scale of my work is pretty large. But I have a lot of different things in mind, but nothing has solidified just yet. But I know it'll probably be blue, because I find it's a wonderful color to work in. It's very mysterious. Blue is a favorite. I've found that. A lot of people just love blue. They find it a very harmonious color to be around. It's calm. It's easy to be around. And the colors that I use are really soothing to me, and I hope to others. And I think my latest series has been Sublimation, which is an examination of women's work, quite frankly. How women always get the job done and they make it look very easy. And so my paintings are built up of many, many layers, of which I cover with a shiny surface, and I leave some craggy or rough, so that there's a contrast there. But that's representative of what I suppose I have in mind when I'm painting. That I'm becoming very fearless in my work. And I know that whenever one makes a mistake, you can always capitalize on that mistake if you wish, and bring it into something else. So I'm never worried about things like that. And I'm not worried about marketing either. When people enter my studio, the majority tells me that it's a very peaceful place to be. And that's what I look for in my work, serenity. You know, I think about what pleases me, what gives me joy, and I try to have that reflected in my canvases. Painting is very important to me at this stage of my life. I made a pact with myself about 7 years ago that I would nurture that creative aspect in me, and so that's what I've done.
I never thought I could be an artist. I originally wanted to be a art teacher because I thought that was the only realistic thing that I could do, and that didn't work out. I didn't have the personality for that environment because it requires a lot of acting appropriately. One of the reasons why I really wanted to be an art teacher was that I felt that so much of my talent was learned. And that's one of the things that people come up to me in the street and say, "Wow, you're so talented," which is frustrating because it's been so much work, and it implies that I was just given something that I'm actually working on so hard. And it also implies that other people can't do it, which I don't feel is true. I feel that anyone can become a really, really great artist. But what's missing with the talent behind these people is that someone like Monet, in order to be Monet, you have to paint hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. You have to pretty much devote your entire life to it. And you can't have any hobbies, you can't do anything else, because in order to get anywhere with it, you have to do it almost all the time. And so if people say, well, I want to be an artist, and they're not, what it really means is that they want to have the desire, and they really don't. My mom was a real pragmatist, so I was very serious about having a job that would pay me enough to live off of. I would paint 4 or 5 nights a week and watch no television. When I started out, and I worked at Kinko's, and I worked at office jobs. And I kept kind of getting fired after 2 years at each of those. And and people would tell me, "What are you doing here?" They would see my paintings, "You should be painting." And so over the years, I developed some galleries, and I've developed some clients, and I was starting to do commissioned work outside. And so I've moved to being completely full-time now. I don't do anything other than painting as a living. I knew art was attracting me partly because it was something that I could do, and I could see that others couldn't, as far as drawing goes. But I couldn't paint, or I couldn't paint at all. Basically, I didn't really know anything about color until I went into college, and I'd seen some art exhibits like Monet in the 90s at the MFA. Well, I started doing a lot of portraits and drawing portraits because that was something I could copy the exact shapes and capture people's personality rather than just trying to draw what looked like an eye. Actually capturing the exact shapes of their eyes and the parts of their eyes. I would be able to capture personality, and people would get really excited about that. I went to this Monet show, and I saw all these almost ridiculous colors. They were very bright and vibrant, and they were almost always not the color that you would think something would be. And I it came from a faith and a belief that there was something to that wasn't just the invention of a crazy artist, that he was actually seeing these colors. So on the way home from that trip, I started looking out the window and trying to see at different times of the day the colors that he was seeing. And I basically trained myself to see those kinds of colors. It's absolutely real work. When you're working at being a great artist, such as Monet or Renoir or Dali, he would paint 8 hours a day. He would have a set amount of time that he would paint, and it's for people who paint full time and work at it at that level. It really is. It's work and it's fun. I'm doing it because it excites me to help people appreciate the world around them. I feel that there are a lot of people out there who work all the time and fill their lives with trips and so forth, And they don't have the time to go and spend 2 hours looking at Copley Square or the beautiful cathedral or Notre Dame in Paris. And I spend 18 hours looking at it, so that when people purchase the painting and hand it down through generations, over the course of their lifetime, when they see it every day, they get that 18 hours spread out over that. And every time they look at it, they see something new that I saw and recorded. My actual ultimate goal in painting architecture is to have people appreciate more and more styles that are out there, and to appreciate the new styles that come out in architecture or art, and continue to appreciate styles that have been in, and have things not really go in and out, where people don't stop appreciating things, people just continue appreciating things and move towards appreciating new things in addition.
My painting has taken an interesting path. About 7 years ago, I started painting a lot more than I had in the years before, and studied at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and tried to figure out what direction I wanted to take it. And I knew that I was a realist at heart and did a lot of architectural landscape around Boston, and that was kind of my focus. And as I painted more, I realized that I was more of a studio painter than a landscape painter, and became very focused on a group of objects. They were teacups and teapots that I had inherited from my mother and my mother-in-law. And the teacups have morphed, I guess. I started out painting very small, regular, still life paintings, and they grew and got larger than life and a little bit more abstract. And now they have become even more abstract, where I focus in on just the teacups as an abstract element in my painting. I think the teacups have taken on a life of their own, and that's something that I'm seeing in them now. They are more than inanimate objects to me. I can place them so they're crooked and upside down, and you can look down in them, you can look on the outside of them, and they're kind of quirky. They've become quirky objects to me. They're sometimes I pair them with other objects that don't seem to make sense to somebody else, like playing cards, for instance, because I saw them as a child being used after my parents played cards. They'd play poker and gin rummy and canasta, and then serve coffee and tea in these teacups, and there are all these quirky people that were drinking the tea and the coffee, and I kind of see these teacups as little items that have been used over the years by all kinds of people, and they have little personalities of their own in the way they look at each other and interact with each other, just like the people did all those years ago. Even though they are inanimate objects, and they're just old objects that they have, it's like the old song, I'm a little teapot, and there's the, like this, and you know, there's the arm, and there's the nose, and the teacups are kind of like that. They look at each other like the people who drank out of them in little groups and talk to each other. That's a little strange, but that's cool. I look at a painting as an abstract form. Even though I paint as a realist artist, it is totally an abstract design in my head when I'm visualizing how I'm going to put something together on the canvas. And I want to arrange the colors and the lines and the negative space so that it all interacts with each other. And then I end up with something that's reality, and I hope that the viewer sees the reality of what I'm painting. But in my head, I'm painting abstract forms, but I happen to like real things. My approach to painting when I go to the studio in the morning is I try to have a clear idea of a project that I want to work on that day. I might have 2 or 3 paintings in process, and I think that that's an important thing for me, is to always know what my next project is going to be in the middle of the one that I'm doing now, because then there isn't a stop period. Well, painting has given me many things in my life. It gives me an inner satisfaction of being able to express what I want to do in my work and what I want to put on the canvas. I have a wonderful community in the building where I work at 450 Harrison, where we can interact as artists and we can help each other keep going and get motivated, and that's actually one of the best things that I've found in the last several years, is this studio space where I am now, where I can be so happy with my work and with my community. I paint a lot of still life because I enjoy it, but in the summertime, my love of being outdoors in New England and the landscape of New England draws me out, and so I do go out and paint landscape. And I think one of the reasons I do is it kind of keeps your eyes honest, and by that I mean it's very immediate, where in the studio I have lots of time to think and rethink and paint and repaint, where if I'm painting the landscape outside, it's very quick and very immediate, and it's an impression of what I see. Whatever it is about the painting should make their lives enriched. Every day when they walk by it, I just wanted to fill their space, and with art, I like filling people's lives with art.